الأجل يوسف زهرة الأجل يوسف زهرة الأجل يوسف زهرة.
رحم الله من قرأ الفاتحة. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. Before I begin the khutbah, if I can, sorry, for a third time, I don't mean to be annoying, but there are some spots in front of the books here. If you can kindly just shift your way, if you don't mind.
Can we actually, let's all try and also move the screen. I think there's no space in the ladies, so if guys can stand up and move over here, and then we're going to move the screen this way, because I think people can't even sit on that side. So if people can help me out, just to kind of move this over. We're all family, so everybody sit close together, please. So that we can try and accommodate things, okay? Sorry. Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. खुशनूदी इमाम ज़मान बुलंदर सलावत
Just give it 2 more minutes for people to settle down, inshallah. I'm good, thanks. There's no spot. Good, thanks. Give me one more loud salawat ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله الذي لا يبلغ مدحته القائلون ولا يحصي نعماءه العادون ولا يؤدي حقه المجتهدون الذي لا يدركه بعد الحمم ولا يناله غوص الفطن ثم الصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين حبيب قلوبنا وطبيب نفوسنا والشفيع ذنوبنا سيدنا ومولانا أبي القاسم محمد.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد وعجل فرجه.
وعلى آل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين المظلومين لا سيما بقية الله في الأرضين صاحب العصر والزمان خليفة الرحمن إمام الإنس والجان ولعن الله أعداءهم أجمعين إلى يوم الدين. أما بعد فقد قال الله وقوله الحق. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الذين جاهدوا فينا لنهدينهم سبلنا وإن الله لمع المحسنين. صلوات على محمد وآل محمد.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل
Shaheed and Shahid, the martyr and the witness, has been our ongoing topic. Tonight is lecture number 9 and is our final lecture of the series. There's a lot to be said tonight, and inshallah, if all of you are with us, we get the lights and the fans right, then inshallah we can continue. You guys can focus on what's being said. Everyone who is in the hall is in the hall now, inshallah. Fans off or on, it doesn't matter. So let's begin the speech now, please, with a nice salawat ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. I wanted to first of all express my gratitude, my appreciation to this community, to Zainabia, to the Ajal youth group, to my host who hosted me for 9 nights, to the youth that reached out to me and inspired me more than they think that I inspired them, for allowing someone like me, a complete jahil, haqir, faqir, to spend these beautiful days of Arba'een with all of you. There are some of you who I am seeing tonight for the first time. And I just wanted to make a few points about the community itself and then move towards our topic. I can tell you from my personal experience, growing up in Toronto, that if I could identify in my childhood one tool of salvation, one thing that possibly, perhaps, saved me from becoming worse than I already am, is the importance that my family injected inside of me about the community. I don't think that I would even have an inclination of the Deen of Islam without my community. I don't think that I could even dream or think about going to Iran and spending a few days there and coming back without a community. There are far too many tools in this society to pull us away from Allah. There are too many out there. They grow by the day, it seems. And there are just not enough tools sometimes to combat those tools and pull us towards Allah. In the West, there are very few. If we begin to eliminate those few tools that we have to bring us towards Allah, then God help us. And one of those tools is the involvement that all of us need to have in our community. The Holy Prophet Muhammad Mustafa sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa sallam when he arrived in Medina to establish the Islamic government, his very first act, that all of you know that he did, was he constructed a mosque. And he created homes such that the door to that home was connected to the door of the masjid. In the process, the very, very first thing that the Prophet of Allah did was create a community inside Medina. That sunnah of the Holy Prophets is enough proof for us to understand that while there might be other things that need to be done, the very first fundamental thing that needs to be established is a community. So my humble request to all of you who, mashallah, have blessed us with your presence today, is that your salvation in the West, if you are actually worried about your salvation, if you're concerned about the future of you and your children, if you're concerned about you staying on the path of Islam, then let me tell you from my own personal experience, and we have tons of pages of our hadiths to support this, that we won't be able to save ourselves on the path of Islam without a community. Now I know, and mashallah, for the past 10 nights, we've had the opportunity to speak to many of you about some of the grievances or some of the issues, good or bad, that you have in your own individual community. I'm here to tell you that your community is not unlike anyone else's other community. There's not one perfect community out there. The beauty of this community is you guys are one. There's only one Urdu community in all of Michigan, as far as I'm concerned. That, of course, has its pros and has its cons, but the definite pro is that you guys have a monopoly in the States. There's no other option you guys have out there. Yes, there could be an issue with the language barrier, could be the fact that our elders perhaps have this iron grip over the center that don't allow the youth to come in. There's 1,001 issues, that's fine. But the sheer idea of you not attending the community for these, with all due respect to all of you, minimal excuses, you're hurting yourself. You're not hurting anybody else. By the time I was here for the 4th or 5th day, I had to ask some of you who I know very well, that look, is it the fact that the young guys don't come to the center or they don't exist? Until I went to a house majlis over the weekend, and all of a sudden this explosion of a community happened, and there were all faces who were in their mid-20s, late 20s, early 30s, early 20s. I thought, wait a second, they're here in the States somewhere roaming around, they just don't come to Zainabiyah. There are issues everywhere. There are problems everywhere. Okay? You should feel lucky that while you have maybe issues here at Zainabiyah, and there are very minor issues with all due respect, there are 10 other cities that have problems that are 10 times your size. If you're searching for the perfect community that has an amazing English program for all of you, an amazing Urdu program for all of you, that taps into your recreation, taps into your social needs, economic needs, political needs, religious needs, spiritual needs, everything, helps me raise my kids, helps me pray salat, helps me fast, helps me in my business, helps my jump shot, all these things. No community is out there like that, with all due respect. There's not a single community out there anywhere. And the grass is always greener on the other side, right? My humble request to all of you is that we live in an era where your single greatest responsibility, my young cats in the audience, is to preserve and protect your iman. And one of the ways you can do that is attach yourself to a community. You come here on a Thursday night, if you even know 5% of Urdu, sit in front of the alim. The least you'll get is Du'a Kumail, the least you'll get is Salat, the least you'll get is a mulaqat with the mu'mineen. That's iman. And a reminder. We need a reminder once a week. Shaheed Mutahari, you've heard, there are books of him on these shelves. An amazing personality, a scholar in his own rights. He was a student of Imam Khomeini. He would say that we would have classes with Agha on Thursday. On Thursday would be our last class. Our next class is on Monday. In the next 3 days, our biggest fear was that how are we going to maintain the energy we had from the Thursday lesson. I mean, his biggest fear was what? In 3 days, it might all fade away. We need at least once a week a reminder of what path we're on. And don't expect yourself to remind yourself of that. This society, this life is pulling you guys, especially my young guys who are professionals, in 10 different areas. And somewhere in that mix is a community, God, the Deen, Islam, Shiism. I gotta squeeze it in there somehow. Your salvation is your community. If there are issues in the community, stop waiting for others to fix it. Step forward, Grab a group of guys and fix the problem. Plug the holes. If you're waiting for a youth group to be started, you're waiting for some English alim to come and save the day, you work without the alim. And do what you want others to do for you. Step forward. Grab a bunch of guys your age and begin small programs here and there. The excuses are running out, and the tools for shaitan are increasing. Part of your salvation is this community. I ask all of you, I humbly request all of you, as a brother of yours, as a son of yours, to please attach yourself to this community. Do what you can for this community. Nobody is perfect, no individual is perfect. Where you have dishes, you have noise. Accept the noise, it's okay. A difference of opinion is and should be respected. Ikhtilaf. A difference of opinion up here should not resonate down here. It should not be that either you accept my ideology and the way I do things, or you are cut off from me altogether. I don't know where ikhtilaf of the zahn equal ikhtilaf of the qalb. It shouldn't be that way. We are the only school of thought within the circle of Islam that actually respects the difference of opinion of others, with certain limits, of course. So my humble request to all of you, as my last speech tonight, I'm flying out tomorrow morning, is to humbly request you to work with the community. It's a 45-minute drive, a half an hour drive, it's here, it's too far along. These things can be all solved if the community motivates people to come. People will drive an hour if they get what they want. Okay? So if others are not doing what you want them to do, then you start doing what you want them to do. And the doors will begin to open. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. The day of Arba'een. Why is it so important? If it's nothing else, it is the announcement of the victory of Hussein ibn Ali. For people to commemorate Ashura and 40 days later come back together to commemorate Arba'een is victory. For 21 million people right now in Karbala, that's victory. It's victory of Zainab's mission, it's victory of Hussein's mission. That every single year now that comes about, this group that goes towards Karbala and Najaf, and many of you were there last year, and the beauty of it is that all of you are bleeding right now to go back this year. Some of you might even think, what did I do wrong in the past 12 months? That I didn't go back this year. I wasn't invited again. That's how much love we have for Imam Hussein. We'll go to a war-torn country where ISIS is everywhere. Bombs can go off any time. A crowd of 20 million people. Where you'll sleep, what you'll eat, the weather there, who cares? I'm just going to send my salams to you, Barakallah. That's it. It's incredible. Our attempt for 9 nights now has been revolving around an understanding of the Shaheed and an understanding of the witness. The Shaheed being Imam Hussein, understanding his ideology, his fikr, why he did what he did, how he did what he did. We talked about things like submission. We talked about things like selling and purchasing the soul. We talked about things like awakening and awareness. And then we moved and shifted our discussions from Tuesday up until tonight towards the witness. The witness, the Shahid, being you and I. Those who are fully aware of what the Shaheed has done. Either through books or through lectures. And what is our responsibility now that the Shaheed has done what he did? What do we need to do for this Shaheed? We talked about the importance of these types of gatherings. We talked about the essence of Amr bil Ma'ruf. We talked about the following of the Sharia. Last night we talked about migration. And we talked about last night of qadr shinasi, understanding your qadr, your value, the importance of a youth in Islam. And tonight, of course, we speak lastly and finally the most important value that Imam Hussein left his family, left his loved ones in Medina for, was the upholding of justice. As individuals who have witnessed this beautiful martyrdom, this sacrifice, if we can summarize Imam Hussein's mission into one, that mission was a mission of justice. The sheer option for Imam Hussein to stay in Medina while Yazid was announced as the Khalifa of Islam was not an option for him. The injustice that was done by him and his family, Yazid meaning, was enough of a reason for Imam Hussein to leave his house and rise up against the injustice of the time. And through his sacrifice, expose that injustice. If we need to work on anything when it comes to Imam Hussein's mission, it's to take that and emulate it today. There's no shortage of Yazidiyat in this world. Back then there was one Yazid, there are several Yazids today. Back then there were a handful of individuals who were beside Imam Hussein. At least on paper there's millions today. Our focus should be on justice. So let's examine this a little bit, the concept of our adalat in the Shia world, and see what, practically speaking, can we do in this part of the world to understand Imam Hussein's mission. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad.
Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad.
You know that there are 3 roots of Islam and 2 roots of Iman. And they equal 5 that you've learned in your Sunday schools. Tawheed, Nabuwat, and Qiyamat are 3 roots of Islam. You're not a Muslim unless you believe in these 3. That include Shia and non-Shias. And you're not considered a mu'min unless you add to that 2 more roots, being justice, adalat, and imamat. So a true mu'min is one who believes in all 5 of these things. Now the question I have for all of you is that of all of Allah's qualities that we have, Allah has 99 names, as you know very famously. In Dua Joshin al-Kabir, He has 1,000 different qualities that we recite in the month of Ramadan. Of all of that, we extracted justice to be a root of Iman. Why not His forgiveness? Why not His power? Why not His ability to give rizq? Why not His life, His hayy, His ilm? All of that was not taken. Adal and justice, Him being just, was taken as a root of the deen. Meaning you're not considered a Shia if you don't believe in these 5 principles. Why adalat? Very quickly, I'm sure this discussion has happened already with all of you. As a reminder to all of you, people like me don't give you anything new. We just remind you of things you already know. So don't expect anything new from me. Just expect reminders, inshallah. Number 1 reason why adalat. In the world of Tawheed, inshallah, when you, and those of you of my youth who understand the basic level of Tawheed, you should go up 1 notch and get into a very deep philosophical understanding of Tawheed. What is the uniqueness and the oneness of Allah? What does it mean when we qualify and quantify Allah as one, as unique? When you go deep a little bit into this idea of Tawheed, you'll know that every other quality of Allah goes back to His justice. If He is merciful because He is just. If He gives He gives because He is just. If He is somebody who is punishing you, He is punishing you because He is just. Meaning every other quality of Allah goes back and travels through his justice. It's impossible for God to do something outside the realm of his justice. And we know one thing about God, that his qualities are not like ours. His qualities are wajib on him. Meaning what? Very, very, very quickly. For example, you say, Hassan is tall. Hassan is smart. Hassan is pious. Okay? You with me, inshallah? Everyone from my left to my right? Yes? Okay. If Hassan changes his qualities, so in all three sentences, now please follow me for a second. I'm building the base for our discussion tonight. Hassan is tall, Hassan is smart, Hassan is pious. Hassan is the same in all three statements. The qualities change. Correct? If, God forbid, Hassan becomes not pious, becomes corrupt. Hassan is pious, becomes Hassan is corrupt. The piety in Hassan changes, but Hassan doesn't cease to exist. Hassan remains where he is. Hassan is smart. If Hassan becomes foolish, the smartness changes inside of him, but Hassan doesn't cease to exist. Meaning his essence and his qualities are independent of each other. Make sense? His essence is there. His qualities fluctuate, like you and I, for example. 10 years ago we were one way. Right now we're one way. 10 years from now, hopefully, we're better than we are. We fluctuate, but our essence doesn't change. Allah is not like that. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is laysa kamithlihi shay. He's like nothing we've ever seen before. Where we are independent from our qualities, his qualities are part of his essence. Allah is just, Allah is merciful, Allah is alive. Can we say that justice can change to injustice? No, we can't. It's impossible. Because the moment that quality changes, that Allah changes as well. The very simple example I'll tell you is, can we make salt sweet, for example? I asked you, can you make salt sweet? You're like, yeah, sure you can. Add sugar to it. Right? You make salt sweet? So yeah, you're right. It's sweet, but it's not salt anymore. The essence of salt is in its saltiness. You remove that, the essence gets lost. You can add what you want to it, but you can't call it salt anymore. If we claim that God is not just, if we claim that Allah is not merciful, if we strip one of his qualities from him, we can call him whatever we want, we can't call him Allah. Make sense? His qualities are part of his essence. He survives on his qualities. Meaning, if it's wajib for him to survive, and he's what's called wajibul wujud in the area of philosophy, he's a necessary existence. That means that every other quality of his also is wajib on him as well. Make sense? Logic speaking. So justice on God is wajib. He has to be just. Let's talk about, natural disasters. Where's God now? A baby is born with a missing limb, for example. Where's God now? Innocent lives being killed. Where's God now? There's people who like to challenge God. Say all this idea of injustice goes back to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It's a flawed argument. It's a foolish argument, actually. They don't understand God to begin with. Justice is the basic root of our iman. You're not a mu'min without justice. Every other quality of Allah goes through his justice. Every other root of the deen goes through his justice. His tawheed is justice. His nabuwwat is justice. His imamat is justice. His qiyamat is justice. If I had more time, we describe how each and every single one of them is just. The fact that Allah not only says, believe in me, but believe in only me, is his justice. Him sending down 124,000 examples for us to live our life on is His justice. Him continuing the line of guidance through Ghadir, through Karbala to today is His justice. And the very essence of the Day of Judgment is all based on justice. Okay? So what is our role? Now that we understand that not only the Iman that we believe in, but the God that we believe in, it's wajib on Him to be just. And we know one thing for sure. And that is that as we get further along the path of spirituality, one thing we should start seeing inside of us is a reflection of God's qualities inside of us. Oftentimes, my youth ask us, how do I know what I'm doing is right? How do I know that the worship I'm doing is working? How do I know that I'm not wasting my time? Now, yes, the answer sometimes given is, look, you worry about your fariza and let Him worry about the natija. You worry about your obligation and the rest up to Him. That's fine. Doesn't sit well with us, though. We are people who are result-oriented, especially in the West. I want to know that what I'm doing will result in something positive for me. Otherwise, I'm not going to waste my time. Make sense? How do we know that our ibadat is working? One sure sign is, like I said, we start to see God's reflection inside of us. Allah, you are Rahman, Allah, you are Rahim. Allah, please forgive me. Astaghfirullah wa atubu ilayh. 70 times, 10 times, 20 times. In sujood, we're crying, Allah, please forgive me. Oh, Allah, please forgive me. I messed up. I committed a sin. I made a mistake. I'm sorry, God. I'm sorry, God. I'm sorry, God. And God would say, wait a second. There are 10 people seeking your forgiveness. And you refuse to forgive them. And you're asking me for my forgiveness. Why don't you show me your forgiveness, and I'll show you my forgiveness. Oh Allah, what I do behind closed doors, you know and I know. Allah, please save my izzat. Don't expose myself to my community, my family, my wife, my husband, my kids, my friends, my co-workers. Please, save my izzat. Conceal. You are satar al-uyub. You are satar al-uyub. You conceal my defects. You don't expose me. Please, Allah, keep it that way. Allah will come back and say, but you take it upon yourself to expose every other person you know about. You know one thing about one person, and the next day 10 more people know it. You beg me to conceal your defects while you expose the defects of others. You show me a little bit of what you're asking me, and I'll show you mine. And when we start doing that, when our heart softens, we become a glimpse or a shadow, a reflection, 0.001% of God, then we can know that our worship is working. And to keep going. When the Ahl al-Bayt, and specifically Imam Jafri al-Sadiq, alayhi salatu wa salam, he says, Nahnu Asma al-Husna. We are the Asma al-Husna. Meaning what? That we are the manifestation of Allah's qualities. If you're confused about how Allah's Rahmaniyat works, look at us. If you're confused about how Allah's Rahimiyat works, look at us. If you're confused about how He's a Razik, a Khaliq, how He's Ghafoor, how He's Zahir, Latif, Basir, come and look at us. We are just a reflection of the rays of the sun itself. But sometimes to understand the heat of the sun, the rays is enough for us to understand, right? That's how the Ahl Bayt are for us. Understand the importance of justice? Let's come practical. Many of us believe that what I can do in this part of the world is limited. What can I do? There's so much happening right now all over the earth. What was once a war on terrorism is now a war on Islam. What was once a war on Islam is now a direct confrontation with the school of thought of the Ahlul Bayt. They see us as the primary thorn in their bush. We are the obstacle for them to get what they want. They understand that if this group gets their act together, they could conquer the world. They know and they've seen the facts that if they have the right leader, they can revolutionize a country. They've seen a glimpse of when you have the right leader, you can take on the world for 8 years and still continue to build towards your greatness. In this day and age, for us to not be active socially and active politically is a shame. In this day, and there are levels to that, by the way. Let me make that very clear. There are levels to activism. There are some of you, mashallah, who are out there in the middle of it chanting with the mic in your hand, and that's one level. There are some of you who maybe aren't ready for that. That's fine. All I'm saying, for the bare minimum amount of activism we need today is that at least in the heart of your hearts, you pray for the destruction of the Zalimin. There are people who don't do that, I'm sorry. They're reading the paper, 63 die in Iraq, okay. Turn the page. Like it's, everyday news. If you can do that, maybe a tweet once in a while, maybe a quote on Facebook once in a while. Maybe actually a discussion once in a while. But first of all, this idea of separation of politics and the deen, right? Sometimes even this discussion right now, as I'm having it, a lot of you are squirming in your seats right now. Uncomfortable. Oh man, here we go again. He's one of those guys. Right? It's a shame that we become indifferent, that we become the silent majority. How much will it take? How much more dhulm do you need for you to speak out? How much more oppression do you have to see? Do you want to see small kids buried in their own blood? Abbas town in Pakistan and Quetta in Pakistan. Is there any more than that? You want to see mothers who are now widows? Come to Iraq. You want to see schools bombed with kids sleeping inside of them? Go to Gaza Strip. You want individuals to line up, young individuals, check their chests for bruises, put them in a pit, shoot them dead, film it, send that movie video to their mothers on Eid. Watch this video of your child being killed, 18 years old, 21 years old. The prime of his life, his only crime was he said, Labbaik Ya Hussein. That's not enough. I don't know what more we need as a nation to rise up, to speak out. We're doing it, alhamdulillah. There are people who are now stepping forward. And sometimes it's because it's hit home. When bombs were going off in Quetta, Parachinar, Abbas Town, Karachi, Lahore, Peshawar, people were coming out in loads, thousands in the streets. Why? Because part of that blast was my uncle, was my nephew, was my this, was my that. And that's fine. If that's what it takes, that's fine. That's what it takes. The movement has to continue to move forward. If we want any chance of being anywhere near the Imam when he comes, we have to somehow create his mission before he arrives. At least show him on the same page as you. You pick up any tradition about what the Imam is going to establish, and nowhere will you see that the Imam will come and establish Islam. No. He's going to establish justice. Why? Because justice is the only platform where every human being will come and unite on. Our fight against injustice, let's get this also understood. Our fight against injustice is absolute. We don't care who the Muslim is. We don't care who the victim is. If there is injustice being done, Nobody will be there. A Shia of Ali will be there. If that victim are Jews, not Zionists, Jews, then we are there beside our Jewish brothers. If it is our Christian brothers, we're there beside our Christian brothers. If it's that dhulm against our Sunni brothers, then we are beside our Sunni brothers. Wherever there is injustice going on, we need to be there. When Imam Ali is telling Imam Mujtaba that the advice I have for you before I leave this world is to rise up against the oppressor and support the oppressed, he does not tell him that the oppressed have to be my Shias. When there's so much attention that Iran gives Palestine, they're a bunch of Nasibis. They hate Imam Ali. We forget about Iraq. There are mu'mineen. You don't understand politics, that means. Your source of politics might be Jon Stewart or something, or somebody else. Understand the reality. Have a little bit of basira and insight. Understand the cry in Palestine is the cry in Iraq. It's one cry. Why? It's one enemy. That's why. I mentioned this a few nights ago downstairs in the main hall as an ishara, as an indication. Let me complete that indication. This is not a popular discussion. I'm not here trying to make friends or entertain you by eating fire and juggling balls. I'm here to deliver a message. I have a responsibility. If there's 100 people in this audience right now and you spend 3 hours with me, traveling, commuting back and forth, that's 300 hours. That will be on my neck on the day of judgment. And they'll ask me, Asad, 300 hours worth of people came and sat in front of you and gave you an hour of their time. What did you give them? Anything to ponder about? I'm not just a pretty face. Don't judge me, I'm much more than that. It's not a popular discussion. I'm sorry. That's why I always keep these things for the last speech. Drop the bomb and fly out the next morning. I'm dead serious. We need to wake up, guys. And mashallah, this community, you guys are well known, alhamdulillah, to be an active community. Alhamdulillah. You have an alim who's active, and you also are active. It's not enough. If you can get others to be active as well, that's great. A lot of you might not be active. A lot of you might have these thoughts in your head. That when Al-Quds rolls about, what is this? These guys are not even Shias, first of all. Let me also tackle that discussion while I'm at it as well, since I'm just on a roll right now. We have to make a difference between what a takfiri is and what a Sunni is. We have to understand what a Wahhabi is and what a Sunni is. We have to understand that the likes of Al-Nusra and Daesh and Al-Qaeda and these puppets and branches of the tree have nothing to do with Islam whatsoever. You can bring about all you want about Ibn Taymiyyah and Ibn Wahhab and the history of 200 years, but don't alleviate the fact that there is somebody behind the scenes pumping these individuals to go and do what you want to do. These are takfiri individuals. And takfiri individuals and their root, if you go back to history, their root and their seed was planted in Siffin. When the Khawarij movement broke off from that war, they sent la'na to Ali and la'na to Muawiyah as well. Where is that left? The Islamic world. Nowhere. You deny Ali, you deny Muawiyah. Where are you? Outside the circle of Islam. You are your own ideology. And that entire nasl, that generation, has brought itself down to today. That's why Alhamdulillah, when someone comes to me, the Mu'min says, Ali, congratulations, the Khawarij movement is dead. He says, don't be fooled. The Khawarij movement exists in the wombs of their mothers. They're not going anywhere. Don't fall into the trap to believe that Daesh are a bunch of recruiters from the Ahl Sunnah world. They're not. They're a takfiri group. It have nothing to do with Islam. Where even Al-Qaeda says, these guys are crazy, man. But they are a branch. Guys, they are a branch of the tree. You can trim the branch all you want. The branch will grow back stronger. What you want to do is uproot the tree from its roots. And if the roots remain to be strong, the branches will continue to be strong. The branches are Al-Qaeda, the branches are ISIS, the branches are Al-Nusra. The roots are not these. The root of that tree is Zionism. Understand that. They're not a bunch of Jews in Israel. It's an entire ideology. It is today's Dajjal. It is the movement that is feeding and funding everything else out there. And their sole cause is that we can't kill this ideology, so let's get others to kill this ideology. And let's create this sectarian conflict. Sunni militants called ISIS, not Sunni, first of all. A Khalifa called Abu Bakr, wow, really creative. Create that hate for Abu Bakr all over again. Right? Pour in the name Khalifa, Khalifa, Khalifa. Pour in the name Islamic State, Islamic State, ISIS, ISIS. Even the color of our flags have to be changed to black on our mosque, red on our mosque, just in case our friends in the Secret Service come about and say, oh, there's a black flag, this must be an ISIS mosque. What do? We change to red. I know individuals, not individuals, groups. They have a long name for the organization. The acronym is too close to ISIS, so they change the entire name of their organization. I know organizations, communities. I said this before. Sometimes the enemy says boo to them. Just says boo to them. And they change everything. Their curriculum, their look on their face, the speakers that come to the center, their programs, everything. All they said was boo. Or one phone call that says, you want to come and see what you do. Come and see what you do. Come, have some halim, sit down, enjoy yourself. No problem. We're not going to change ourselves. This is what we do. Why? We have nothing to hide. That's why if, God forbid, one day, someday, we can learn to open the walls of Hussein to others, then we can start to maybe expect others to understand that Imam Hussein are not the images you see on CNN of people drowning in their own blood. The image of Hussein is an image of resistance and uprising and facing injustice and slapping the face of the zalim and saying, you cut my head 1,000 times, I won't give bay'ah to you. The faster we understand that, the faster we can export it. I ask you please to rise up now. Understand that victory is not measured by the amount of bodies that we've lost and the amount of bodies that they've lost. Victory in today's day and age, is the level of resistance you can uphold against the enemy's attack. Now you sit there and say in Palestine, they destroyed buildings. It's all rubble. The Gaza Strip is completely and absolutely destroyed, and yet we celebrate their victory. The reason why we celebrate that victory is because the Zionist forces do everything they can at the Gaza Strip. And the Palestinians didn't move from where they were. They gave their kids a sacrifice, they gave their schools a sacrifice, but they remained where they were. That resistance, albeit surrounded by dead bodies, is a resistance of victory. Right now, we're in the minority. We're not in the majority. Sometimes we're stuck on numbers. Don't be stuck on numbers. We could be 10. If we're on the right path, we become 10,000 very easily. The Quran calls Nabi Ibrahim an ummah, a nation. He's one man, but he represents an entire nation. Why? Because he's on the right path. Remember one thing always, a reminder for all of you. Haqq and batil, there's one main difference. Sallallahu alaihi wa sallam. Falsehood needs followers to survive. Always remember that. The moment that the followers leave that essence of falsehood, it collapses. You can go back to the likes of Abu Sufyan, the likes of Fir'aun, the likes of Yazid, the likes of Saddam, the likes of Gaddafi, the Shah, whatever you want to say. 1,000 examples that the moment that people left them, they crumbled. But Haqq, the truth, is not like that. Haqq is standalone. There could be one follower, there could be 1,000,000 followers. Haqq doesn't go anywhere. That's why the Quran says, Inna batala kana zahuqa. In the essence of falsehood, in the belly of falsehood, inside the falsehood resides its own destruction. And the faster the followers of falsehood leave that path, the faster that falsehood crumbles. Our job right now is to expose that falsehood. Our job today is to increase the speed of the destruction of falsehood that's going on right now. If you're looking at what's happening around the world, those who are trying to fight the fight of falsehood are desperate individuals. Desperate tactics. The governments are crumbling. There's inner fighting. They can't figure out what to do with these Shias. I kill one alim here, and 10 more get up and go to home. I destroy 2 kids from this house, and the mother prays for 3 more kids to give him that path. I destroy one area, another area rises up again. This Shia ideology of ours should have been destroyed a long time ago. A long time ago. We have no business being the superpower of the Middle East right now. No business whatsoever. They poisoned our imams. They massacred our imams. They burned our libraries, destroyed our ulama, made our women widows, our kids orphans. They targeted our professionals, our doctors, our lawyers. If that wasn't enough, they tainted our names, stained our ideology. Propaganda after propaganda. From within the circle of Islam and outside the circle of Islam. The more they push us down, the more we rise up to the top. Because they don't understand that when the Quranic ayat is there, وَنُرِيدُ أَن نَمُنَّ الَّذِينَ اسْتُضْعِفُوا فِي الْأَرْضِ وَنَجْعَلَهُمْ أَئِمَّةً وَنَجْعَلَهُمُ الْوَارِثِينَ. The Quran says, Allah's promise, that we want to bless the oppressed in the world. How do we bless them? We are going to make those that you oppress right now tomorrow's imams and tomorrow's leaders.
لبيك يا حسين 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 لبيك يا حسين
And the day of Arba'in is the beautiful manifestation of that very essence. They killed the man, trampled the man, beheaded the man, stripped him of his clothes, killed his infant children, took his women as prisoners. They have no business right now being the sole individuals responsible for this Azadari movement all over the world. But they are. They did everything. But look at the Sira of the Ahlul Bayt. During the time of Muawiyah, that sunnah, as you know, of sending la'anat to Imam Ali before you start some sort of a speech or a poem, was not 1 or 2 decades, 95 years that sunnah was there. To the point where people stopped naming their kids Ali. The association between the name Ali and la'anat was very strong. In that era, the son of Imam Ali, Imam Hussein alayhi salam, existed. He had 3 sons. Every single one of his sons were named Ali. It's a message for you and I. Doesn't matter what the propaganda is out there, I'm going to stick to my path. when the name of Ali had this association with la'nat with it, Imam Hussein made it a point to tell them that if I have to revive the name of my father through my sons, I will. He named every single one of them Ali. If not, their laqabs were Ali, Ali Asghar, Ali Akbar, Ali ibn Hussein. Today is not the time to be apologetic. Today we don't hide behind names. Today we don't avoid discussions. Today is the time to be offensive. Now is the time to elevate this ideology of the Ahlul Bayt. They don't have any better ideology than us, the Ahlul Bayt. That's why all they want to do is destroy us. Look, one simple point and then Messiah, inshallah. It got warmer in here, right, all of a sudden. Yes? Yeah. AC is useless right now. صلوا على محمد. Look, if you've done any reading on when this ideology of Shiism began, you know that what the other schools of thought possibly tried to paint was a picture that these so-called Shias were not an ideology. They were a rebel group that were going against the Khilafat. That's all they were. They threw a tantrum because Saqifa happened. They were upset, a handful of them, so they decided to protest against the Khalifa. Okay, fine. But to name them a whole firqa, school of thought, or ideology, no. They're just a bunch of guys who were whining and complaining that their guy wasn't a leader. That's what's being printed in their books. If we accept that, please, my youth, those of you who like logic, understand this, please. Understand this. And I ask all of you, I beg all of you, please. I am around tonight afterwards. Anything you want to discuss with me, challenge me, ask me, you need some clarification, you want to insult me, come and do it to my face afterwards. No problem. Do it respectfully, but do it nonetheless. No problem. What I'm saying is not popular. I have a responsibility. I'm not here to give you what you want to hear. I'm giving you what you need to hear sometimes.
Allah.
If that's the case, if that was the case, that these handful of Shias were a break-off group, a bunch of guys who do tantrums, the best way to handle a group like that is to do what? Ignore them. Follow. Is to ignore them. The worst way to handle a group like that is to give them publicity. Follow me, please. Is to give them publicity. Is actually sit there and spend a lot of energy on them. The more press you give them, the more they'll feel like we're making a difference. If you want them to fade away, just ignore them. Go amongst your business. They're a small group. They'll fade away eventually. If you believe they don't have any sort of a base in their belief, their base will eventually crumble. They'll figure it out and they'll fade off in the distance. The fact that there was so much energy spent on killing the Shias, the fact that there was so much energy spent on burning the door of Fatima, the fact that there was so much energy spent on getting bay'at from Ali, where you drag the man from his house into the masjid, the fact that Muawiyah has to tell Yazid that, look, you are now the Khalifa, get bay'at from everybody, but leave Hussein alone. Don't mess with that man. The fact that today there's billions of dollars being spent on simple research on what Azadari is, so we can infiltrate on the inside and destroy it from within. The fact that there is billions of dollars being spent, your tax money by the way, that is there to destroy the marjiyat and leadership of this Shia ideology, doesn't call us a bunch of people who have had tantrums. In fact, give haqiqat to our ideology.
Allah. Subhanallah.
You cannot present a better ideology than us. So what do? You resort to shedding our blood. You can't quiet the man, kill the man. You can't debate the man, kill the man. You can't stop him from spreading, kill the man. Because they realize that the connection that you have sitting in this audience goes all the way back to God. There's no break in the connection. The Shia ideology is a tight chain that's never been broken. Not from today all the way up to Adam. We go from today to people like Khomeini, from Khomeini to Khomeini, from Khomeini to Imam Zamana, from Imam Zamana to Imam Ali, from Imam Ali to the Prophet of Allah, from Prophet of Allah to Prophet Ibrahim, up to Adam, up to Jibreel, up to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. There's no break in that chain. Whereas other schools of thought have 50 years, 100 years of a massive break. They report their hadiths about eras they never even existed in. It's the days of having pride for this ideology. It's the days of defending this ideology. Rising up and looking the evil man in the eye and saying, look, I'm not a terrorist. One thing they know about Shias is that we don't do terrorism. They could tell by the way a man is killed if a Shia killed this man or someone else did. When the U.S. invaded Iraq the first time after toppling Saddam, there was a story about 2 U.S. soldiers in a jeep. They were attacked. They were killed. Their bodies were first dragged in the roads, attached by rope to the car. Then those bodies were set on fire. Then those bodies were hung from a bridge. Then those bodies were hit by a stick. It's gruesome. They couldn't understand who did this, but one thing they understood, that it wasn't a Shia of Ali. Because they know that the teachings of Imam Ali are this. Look at this hadith and then Messiah. He says, for your brothers, give them your wealth and give them your blood. For your enemies, give them your justice and give them your fairness. And for everybody else, give them your compassion and give them your love. Look at this hadith by our Mullah. 3 groups of people, no one else fits in, right? Either they are your brother, or they are your enemy, or they're everybody else. 6 different qualities: blood and wealth, justice and fairness, love and compassion. When you have Shias who follow this ideology, yes, they'll rise up and speak. Yes, they won't be quiet. Yes, they'll wave flags. Yes, they'll say labbaik to everybody. But they won't be terrorists. That's for sure. That's how much they know about us. And that's why they fear us. Because so long as these Muslims pray in the masjid and fast and tasbih and dua, they're good. If they take that outside on the streets, then we're in trouble. Keep them on the musalla. That's good, mashallah. We'll feed you, we'll fund you, create beautiful masjids, huge domes, Quranic programs. Go do that, that's fine. But keep it within the 4 walls of the mosque. Don't come out in downtown Detroit and chant for the death of Zionism. Please don't do that. Stay within your mosque. You're good. Because the moment you do that, now if that grows and increases, then that's our downfall. My brothers and my sisters, if Imam Hussein taught us anything, it's that nothing should be spared when it comes to rising up against injustice. No one's asking anybody here to behead yourself. No one's asking you to shed your blood. No one's asking you to take up arms. No one's asking you to break the law. Please don't break the law. But at least speak out. At least say something. If they're giving their blood there in the east for this cause, we can at least give our voice for this cause as well, inshallah. Salatu ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. السلام عليك يا أبا عبد الله. Arba'in. If the day of Ashura was the day where Zainab and Hussein were separated, then Arba'in is the day where they were reunited once again. Jabir ibn Abdullah Ansari, one of the oldest companions of the Ahlul Bayt, he saw 5 Imams in his life. Jabir was the first visitor to the grave of Abu Abdullah al-Husayn. He had a companion, a friend, somebody who was helping him, named Atiyah. Jabir, in his old age, later on in his life, became blind. Atiyah was there to assist him. This narration that I'm going to share with all of you is from Atiyah himself, who says that when Jabir and I reached the plains of Karbala, the first thing Jabir did on the day of Arba'in was he went to Furat. He washed himself, he had ghusl, put on brand new clothes, put on a scent. He took my hand, Atiyah says. He says, Atiyah, lead me towards the middle of the Maidan of Karbala. He says, where you see a lot of bodies being buried, a collection of graves perhaps, take me in the middle of that. And I want you to point out for me where the grave of Hussein is. Atiyah says, I told Jabir that there's no sign here. There's no alamat, there's no nishani here. There's no sort of indication of whose grave is whose. How do I find out the grave of Hussein? He says, just put me in the middle of the graves, I will find the grave of Hussein. They say Jabir stood there, a blind old man in the middle of all of the bodies that were buried. And he began to call out, Ya Allah, Ya Allah, Ya Allah, 3 times. And then he says, how is it possible that the beloved is calling for his lover and he not answer his call? How is it possible that a Shia is calling for his Imam and he not answer? How is it possible that I am calling for my Mawla Hussein and he not answer my call? And then Jabir says, but how could you answer my call? Your body was trampled on the day of Ashura. How could you answer my call? Your head was severed from your body. How could you answer my call? You lie there lifeless on the plains of Karbala. And then he says, oh Mawla, you were the son of Rasulullah. You were the son of Amir al-Mu'mineen. You were the son of the most pious individuals I have seen. And then he says that you were the son of Fatima, the greatest woman in all the worlds. He waits for some response, he doesn't get a response. He then goes on his knees, and they say Jabir then calls out 3 times, Ya Hussein, Ya Hussein, Ya Hussein. A voice from the grave says, Jabir, you're looking for your Mawla, he's right here. Jabir picks up the khat from the grave of Imam Hussein, puts it on his head, falls and collapses on the grave of Imam Hussein. Mawla, tell me what happened on the day of Ashura, Mawla. Accept my salams, Mawla. I'm sorry I wasn't with you, Mawla. What have they done to you here in Khurbat, Mawla? He begins to cry. He begins to wail. He falls in and out of consciousness. Adiyah narrates that at that time, I saw a caravan of qafila coming towards us. I said, Jabir, stand up, there's a qafila coming. Jabir says, Adiyah, can you describe this qafila for me? He says, Jabir, there's black flags all over the qafila. Jabir, there's a bunch of women draped in black in the qafila. Jabir says, Adiyah, are there any men in this qafila at all? He says, Jabir, I see one man, but his beard is white, his back is bent, he has scars on his neck. Jabir says, take me to the qafila. Adiyah grabs the hand of Jabir, takes him towards the qafila, stands in front of this man that he described. Jabir says, oh man, who are you with this qafila? Introduce yourself. Tell me who you are. The man comes off the camel, stands in front of Jabir, and says, Jabir, Ana Ali ibn al-Hussein, Jabir. Ana Ali ibn al-Hussein. Jabir said, Mawla, the way that Adiyah described you is not the way I thought. What has happened to you? Jabir was very curious to find out what happened on the day of Ashura. Imam Sajjad hugged him, kissed him. They cried for a very long time. Can you imagine Imam Sajjad? For the first time, he met a man, he could actually cry for his father. Imam Sajjad sits Jabir down, says, Jabir, where do I begin, Jabir? What do I tell you, Jabir? Do I tell you of that moment where my uncle Abul Fazl al-Abbas went to my father and said, Mawla, please, the sound of al-Adash and the viewing of your lips, I can't take it anymore. If you won't let me fight, let me go at least get some water for the children. Imam Sajjad says, Jabir, when my Baba ran towards the Maidan, after Abbas yelled from the horse that said, accept my salams, I witnessed this conversation that Abbas says, Mawla, I have two wishes, if you don't mind. One is that my mother always told me that when I was born, I didn't open my eyes until you held me. I ask you, Mawla, I'm leaving this world. I just want to see your face one last time. But there is dirt in one eye. There's an arrow in the other. Mawla, please, clean my eyes. Let me look at your beautiful face one last time. Imam Hussein cleaned the eyes. What is your second wish, Abbas? He says, Mawla, Sakina asked me for water. Leave my body right here at Farat. I don't want Sakina to see my body like this. I saw Jabir, my Sakina, after she saw the alam and she didn't see the alam dad. She didn't ask what happened to my chacha. She didn't ask about the water. She went out to the Maidan of Karbala and says, Chacha Abbas, your Sakina is not thirsty anymore. What do I tell you, Jabir? What do I tell you, Jabir? For the first time, Imam Sajjad has met someone he can empty the house entire grief on. What do I tell you? Do I tell you, Jabir, about Ali Akbar? Do I tell you about the fact that our Prophet Ibrahim, when he was asked to sacrifice his son, before before he sacrificed his son, he had to blindfold his eyes because the sheer thought of him and the sight of him sacrificing his son, he couldn't see. Our salams to you, Nabi Ibrahim. You are the Khalil of Allah. But 1,000 more salams to Abu Abdullah al-Hussein. Ali Akbar is lying on the plains of Karbala. He turns towards Najaf. He says, Baba, you are the one that ripped the door of Khaybar. Come to Karbala. This is my Khaybar, Baba. The bungee in the chest of Ali Akbar. What do I tell you, Jabir? Do I tell you about Ali Asghar, Jabir? Do I tell you about my 6-month-old? Do I tell you about the fact that never have I seen my father so confused about what to do? Never have I seen my father doubt what to do. Never have I seen my father second guess. But when he had Ali Asghar's lifeless body in his arms, he would move towards the Rabab, stop and move back, move forward and move back. He's trying to figure out, how do I tell the mother of a 6-month-old child, I took your child for water? And this is what happened to him. What do I tell you, Jabir? What do I tell you, Jabir? Do I tell you about Qasim, Jabir? Do I tell you about Qasim? Do I tell you about the fact when Umar bin Sa'd al-Azdi killed my Qasim, and Janabi Qasim called out, Assalamu alayka ya Aba Abdullah. I saw Jabir, my father Hussein, and my brother Abbas go inside the Maidan with such force. The Khak of Karbala was in the air. Horses from one side went the other. Horses from one side went the other. The Khak of Karbala was there. I could hear my father saying, Qasim, Aina Qasim, Aina Anta, where are you, Qasim? I don't see you, Qasim. When the Khak settled, I saw my Qasim destroyed altogether. It was my father who dragged his body back to the Khayma. What do you want to hear, Jabir? What do I tell you, Jabir? After a while, Jabir says, Mawla Abbas, that's enough, please. I don't want to hear anything else. And one last point, may Allah accept your tears, give you no gham, survive the gham of Hussein. Imam Sajjad says to Jabir, Jabir, get up, move aside, let my puppy Amma do her ziyarah to Hussein. Bibi Zainab slowly walks towards the grave of Hussein. For the first time, she could cry for Hussein without being slapped, without being whipped, without being tortured. She sits here at the head of Hussein, says, Bhaiya, your Zainab is here, Bhaiya. Bhaiya, your Zainab is here. Accept my salam, Bhaiya. I'm so happy. My heart is in 2 states right now. One half of my heart is filled with joy. The other half of my heart is filled with grief. When Imam Sajjad approaches Bibi Zainab in the darbar of Yazid and says, Pupi Amma, Yazid has given us our freedom. He's asking us, there are 2 ways to go from here. One goes towards Medina and one goes towards Karbala. Which one do you want? She says, Sajjad, take me back to Karbala. My heart is in 2 states. Bhaiya, please. One half of my heart is Tur Sukoon. I'm sitting here at your grave crying for you for the first time. What about the other half of the heart, Zainab? The other half of the heart that's filled with grief is because you told me, Zainab, I'm giving you a 4-year-old amanat on the day of Ashura. Bhaiya, please accept my apologies. I left that amanat in the zindan of Shah. Wow, Hussein, wow, Muslim.